Hey, how you doing, guys? For this topic, I'm going to talk about backing up your data and some true stories that happened to me. Plus, I'm going to show you some of the software time machine that I'm using on mine now. And I admit I'm bad at backing up. Have been in the past. And finally, I'm catching up as well. Okay, I'm going to tell you one of my true stories that happened to my wife. She does have an event planning business on an older MacBook Pro laptop, 2009 model, and it has a mechanical hard drive in it. So she has a bad habit of not shutting it down when she's taking it to different events or whatever, clients, because you should shut down your computer every time you go. You're going to be moving it around, jostling it a lot, such as in a car over potholes. Because even though you close the lid, it's in standby and asleep, it can inadvertently wake up for a while, start spinning, and then with a lot of movement and everything, it can really mess it up. And so one day she tried to boot. It wouldn't boot up on her, and everything we did, we couldn't restore her data, her hard drive, or whatever. So, end of the story. That's the importance of backup. Now, on my well, actually, before we go into that, so what I did is I had an older Mac Pro 2010 model that I was using for a backup. I have three Mac Pros, so I already have my backup computer and my production machine. So I gave her the older Mac Pro. I threw in a extra hard drive and threw on Time Machine, and I really love Time Machine. Ease of use is incredible, and pretty much once I erased all the files, it asked me if I want to use that drive for a Time Machine backup, and I said heck yeah, and copied all the files, and my wife had a backup of all her important files and applications and everything else, which is very important. So now, going to me, I do have a newer Mac Pro that I use for production machine every day. Of course, I do have my backup 2009 Cheese Grater Mac Pro. My newer one, which is the 2013, they call it a trash can, which has a SSD drive in it. And for a long time, I'm like, well, what if I lose everything? Because I do have a lot of important software installed. Data I'm not worried about as much, but it's all my software and paid plugins that I do have in there. It's a hassle to go hunt down the licenses, software keys, and everything else. Of course, I want to get my production machine up as soon as possible. So for my main method of backup, I normally use Carbon Copy Cloner. Great program. One of the key features is you can make that data backup is a bootable drive. That's one of the key features. So I said, well, okay, let me go ahead and download it off the website, which I did, and found my software key, installed it, because I'm allowed to use as many copies on my own personal use in the software license. So went ahead and put the software key in there, and I found out like, okay, you're using an older version, you need to upgrade. I'm like, I don't know if I want. And at the time I didn't have the money. I'm like, oh, I can't spend this 19 or I think it's $40 now or whatever. So I started looking at Time Machine, and first thing I wanted to be sure is, like I said, it backed up all my applications and all of my configuration files for the applications, along with the configuration files. So which it does, it just makes basically entire, it saves all that. So I'm like, okay, great. So I happen to have this Toshiba. It's a portable USB 3 drive. Now it is a mechanical drive. I think it's a 2.5 form factor. Here's a cable for it right here. And it's powered by the computer itself, so no external power cable. So this is perfect. This holds about 500 gigabytes. And my 2013 Mac Pro has a roughly, I think it's 265 gigabyte SSD drive. So that was more than enough. Plus, I can keep on incremental backups on it. I have plenty extra space for incremental backups. So shoved it in there. I did a total erase. Put, of course, the journal file system, Mac OS on there. As soon as I did that, it asked me if I wanted to use as a Time Machine backup, and I said, "Heck yeah, I'm gonna do that." And as soon as it did that, it started backing all my files up. I'm good to go. So, and then what's nice about it too, I think it's since El Capitan maybe, or even maybe a little earlier, Mac OS has a recovery partition now that you can go in recovery mode and do a Time Machine reinstall of all your files before it crashed. So that's great for me. Now I don't have to worry about, you know, any downtime going to my backup machine or whatever. So it works great for me, and so I'm back on Time Machine again instead of Carbon Copy Cloner. Of course, it doesn't have nearly as many features, and it only has a couple of features, but the ease of use is right there. In fact, I just plugged it in again today because I did some more deleting files, applications, and then boom, it did a backup again, and then take it back out. So yeah, it doesn't have very many options. So if you want more options, you're better looking at other applications. But Time Machine works perfectly for me again. I'm not always going to have it connected. I'm just going, the only time I'm going to do a backup again is like when I have a new version of some of my content creation, like my video editor, motion compressor, whatever, one of the biggies, DaVinci Resolve. I might do a backup first, and then I'll install the new application, plugins, or whatever, or even if there's a new operating system update to the next version, I'll do a backup first. I'll go ahead and install everything, see how it works. Usually I wait a pretty long time though, and I look to make sure everything's going to work with everything else because it is my production machine. And then once it's safe to do so, I'll plug in my Time Machine external hard drive, do another backup, and I'm good to go. So give me your thoughts on data backup. Do you guys do it? How do you do it? What machine you use and things like that. Be interesting to talk about. Till then, see you guys later, and don't forget to back up.